welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcast of Dallas, coming at you from Dallas, Texas. How are you, Maria?
I'm doing good.
Doing well?
Yeah.
That's good.
It's Tuesday and
it's a good day.
It is a good day. It's sunny outside.
It's very sunny, very bright. It's a sunshine reggae.
Sunshine reggae. The perfect song for today.
That's right. It's been a really good day. I think it's been a very, very nice day.
Yes, it really has. With our two previous groups at Griner. Thank you, Griner. We're always talking about you guys.
Yes. And those of you who are wondering what is a Griner, Griner is a middle school in Little Oak Cliff, Texas. And they've been very, very gracious for having us, hosting us there for the last almost 7 years.
Wow.
And it's the LCC with Chief
Rosenborough,
who is very, very connected with what we do here. Sergeant Davis,
Sergeant
Brown, Master Sergeant. Yes, we're going to have them on soon. I'm going to do it before the summer.
Yes.
So it's a little middle school, historical school in the Oak Cliff area. If those of you that are listening don't know where Oak Cliff is, look up Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was born and raised in Little Oak Cliff, Texas. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yes. So it's a mellow Tuesday. Miss Cindy's not with us. Sorry, Miss Cindy. We just have to put out a podcast. She's been very, very busy, so I'm sure she's going to have a lot for us when she comes back. But we miss you. Miss Cindy is our director. I guess we could talk a little bit about what this podcast is, huh?
Yeah, we
I think
can.
we should do that. Yes. Kind of letting people know.
Let people know.
Because we just came on. My idea was we just come on. Don't explain who we are, what we do, and let people kind of just figure it out. Yeah, so I think
let people listen to it.
So last week you and I did the music behind.
Yes, the music behind the Real Podcast of Dallas, and that was pretty neat. I enjoyed it.
Yes, so I guess before we start, how can they hear the show, Maria? If they said, I would like to listen to that little podcast that could.
Well,
how can I get a hold of that?
So it's really easy because now you can just Google the Real Podcast of Dallas and it would automatically populate our YouTube podcast. So like if you search the Real Podcast of Dallas, what you're going to see is the YouTube access to our podcast, and once you click on it, you'll be able to listen to us from there, and then you get to choose the other podcasts that are available. This is our podcast number 33.
33, yes.
Yes. The other way you can find us is if you have a Facebook account, and I don't think you need to have a Facebook account, but if you search The Real Podcast of Dallas when you're in Facebook, it will send you to our page, and on our page we have all our episodes pre-recorded, so all you have to do is click on the image, and there is a caption for each episode giving you information on what is being covered under that episode. We have 8 in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken. It's a total of 8 in Spanish, and all the rest are in English. But if you're bilingual, you just click on each and every one of them and listen to the English ones and listen to the Spanish ones.
And what do you call it? You made up a word.
Are you talking about the bilinglish?
Bilinglish.
And I say bilinglish because we're bilingual.
Yes.
And so with bilingual, you have to focus on, are you focusing on speaking English or speaking Spanish? So there's the Spanglish that is very, we use Spanglish a lot. We mix a lot of Spanish in our English conversation. So for me, bilinglish is more like a better focus on, utilizing the right bilingual English words.
Yes.
I try. I promise you, I try.
Yeah, so those of you listening from other countries, what language are they speaking? We are of Hispanic descent. So if you didn't catch on to the accents,
Yes.
But this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about it, just kind of exploring what it was or why it came on. In case you're asking, what are these guys and who are they? Well, it started out because we wanted to reach the kids through COVID. We work in a program where we go into the schools and we talk to kids about the things we talk about here. So if you're enjoying the topics, this is what we do. It's called drug prevention. I also work as a drug counselor and finishing up my schooling so I can become a licensed counselor. So you might hear that in the background. Miss Maria's been working with kids for, what you said, 15 years.
I've been working with kids for a long time, and I started my journey in this field at a treatment center. It was an addiction center for teenagers ages 13 to 18. And, I found out that there was a prevention program through the treatment center that I was working at, and that's where I initiated my whole prevention work, which I learned a lot from the treatment center. And I just felt like based on the conversations that I had with the teens that were, in residential treatment, I came to realize, there's a lack of information being provided to these kids out in schools, and that's the reason why, they get started with these drugs. So I enjoy a lot, working with these kids, giving them the support that they need, educating them on drug prevention, because it is a big piece to what we do.
Right.
But we also do cover social, emotional, and issues that they may be dealing with and processing and learning to deal with those issues without the need of substance abuse. And I think it's a big piece to drug prevention.
Yeah, and it was kind of bold to do that because most podcasts, there is podcasts that are focused on mental health, but we're the first one that does it and has fun doing it.
Yes, we do have a lot of fun doing it. One of the things that helps out a lot, and I keep saying this, Greiner, I always mention Greiner, because Greiner, our kids at Greiner, they're listening to us, and these are the kids that we have contact. COVID brought a lot of challenges to our work in the field. One of them is not being able to walk into the schools. A lot of schools are still not accepting us, but Greiner, from the very beginning, even during the summer, like before the summer hit, right after, it was announced that, that we were in lockdown, they allowed us to continue on providing groups through virtual Zooming. And they, we've been doing virtual this whole past year, and they continue to support us, and they listen to the podcast, and they're the ones that give us ideas and tips on what to do, what topics to cover.
Yes, so behind the scenes, you have a bunch of directors, so over 400, 500 directors, and critics, because they will critique me.
They do.
Yes, and that's okay. We enjoy that. We're hoping to get some of them on. That's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of talk about what this podcast was, because we're going to bring some of these on, characters that we've met along the way.
Yes, and they're very interesting, teenagers, and we have a teenager that just recently shared some music so that we can use as our drop music, and to me that's big. That's
we're
really,
gonna
really big.
Introduce that soon. I was working on that now, and there's a little standstill, so we're gonna do that. I think that's gonna be good.
So Greiner is a middle school, so you are talking about kids somewhere between the ages of 11, 12, and 13, and so I can tell you this one kid that gave us her soundtracks that she's been working on. I want to say she's 12, and she's already
a little older.
13, is it?
Maybe.
But it's really interesting to know that that they're giving us feedback, and they're actually want to form part of it.
You participate, yes.
Participate and be part of it. So yeah, we're gonna have some of those Greiner kids come on podcast one of these days and just interview them and let them.
So you're listening to the Real Podcast of Dallas, and we're giving you a little background on why this podcast happened. And we're talking about the school that kind of initiated the whole thing. Going back, even years back, I was thinking of doing this podcast, and it wasn't really a need at the time. But through COVID, we figured that why not? The best thing was that we did it this way, and I think it's entertaining. I think that like I said, the music is good. It's a laid back environment, and if you're wondering, it's something that we do all the time. working with kids, working with families, it's a given. So a lot of the issues that we talk about, we may bring it in a little lighter because that's how we present it, because we're in it all the time. If I go in a crisis feeling, then I'm going to stress the people that we work with out. But because we've worked with them, because we've been them, we are these kids that we work with. We grew up around some adversity,
a lot of challenges.
And the same communities, because you grew up in the same community that we work in.
Yes, that is so true. Yeah. I live in the community where, we provide service to most of these kids. And sometimes I'm like, I try to tell them, I grew up where you grew up. So...
Yeah, so we've been through the same thing, and it's kind of interesting to grow up in the same area. My advantage has been I've been doing this for 30 years, and I'm able to talk, kind of give you a little history of, when Abraham Lincoln was... No, I'm kidding, not that. But, how the society changed and the customs and all that. So, very interesting to be able to do that, and nice to work with the staff that we work with. But that's kind of in a nutshell why we started this podcast called The Real Podcast of Dallas. And the name The Real came out. Cindy kind of mentioned, let's call it The Real. And it came out of, I don't know if you know this, Miss Maria, I had a little girl from Grindr that on the chat, she said, this is real talk.
That is true. I remember that.
This is the realest talk. And I was like, I like that. So we're keeping it real at the Real Podcast of Dallas.
And by keeping it real, we mean what gets recorded is what we post. We don't do any kind of edits, and we just use what's being recorded. We go along with, with the topic that we start off with, and we try to give you as much information as possible to help you during your day.
Yes, and yes, she did say we don't edit it. Some of y'all might say, yeah, we can tell. So my background a little bit, I did do radio. I was a guest, and I did commentary, and it was a hip-hop show. Then there was a reggae show that I would come on, and it just kind of influenced it. I like the flow of it. No other reason, I think that hip-hop, I think music can be done in a positive way, and that's what we're trying to do, bring in the positive. And I know a lot of people, they just, they get confused. When you're exposed to some type of culture, you think you should just be part of it, and it should define you. And what I learned is that you can like anything, and you can still be an individual. What do you think of that, Ms. Maria, being an individual?
I think it's awesome. We are all individuals. We all have our own thoughts and opinions, and living in the same community doesn't mean that you have to think the same way everybody else around you does. Right.
Yes, and that's one of the main things you should try to understand, trying to be an individual. And I know it's difficult. I know it's very difficult, especially when you're a teen. When you're a teen, it's very difficult to be yourself, or to find out who you are. Sometimes family influences us. Sometimes it's we don't do that. Well, we're not that type of family. And sometimes we have to step outside the box. Now, you have to be careful too, because you don't want to go too far and do things that are illegal. You want to do the right thing. What do you think about doing the right thing, Ms. Maria?
I think it can be difficult, especially like you say with our teens nowadays. I think it can be very difficult to do the right thing. But sometimes you have to think about, what are the things that you want in life? What do you dream for? What are your goals? And, knowing that if you make bad choices along the way, that you're going to hurt those goals and those dreams. Those goals and dreams will not happen if you decide that you want to be like everybody else and go along with the negativity that's around you. You have to make a choice to do the right thing.
Is it always easy to do? Is it always easy to do the right thing?
No, it's not.